for more on the impact of the Bangkok bombing on Thailand's economy, I sat down with Marc Mealy. He's Vice President for Policy at the US-ASEAN Business Council here in Washington.
Well, as you correctly noted, tourism is a very important source of growth in Thailand, along with exports and a few other major industries. I think the way the government will hopefully respond very quickly to the recent bomb blasts and try to really instill that there is a degree of security and safety to kind of downplay or minimize the negative impact on tourism. But I think obviously something like this can have an effect.
What kind of effect do you anticipate? We've had travel warnings from several countries, the US, China, the UK, and tourism makes up 10% of Thailand's GDP.
Sure.
So how significant do you think the impact is going to be on the tourism sector?
I think for that sector, you know, there's lots of destinations in Thailand that people oftentimes visit. So perhaps going into Bangkok, one might see a bit of difficulty, but I think the beach resort areas, which are not in the Bangkok area, hopefully will not be as affected as much by this.
Well, Marc, even before this, Thailand's economy has been struggling, to say the least. Exports have been down, consumer sentiment has been down for 6 months in a row. On top of that, the country's also got a drought to deal with. So times have been pretty bleak. And some are saying that this blast could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, that it could really have a shattering impact on the economy at large. Do you think this will be the case?
I don't see that. I mean, in fact, we took a delegation of roughly 25 American multinational businesses to Thailand in early August. A lot of interest in some of the infrastructure projects which are being planned by this new government. I think the real key challenge for the economy going forward is how credible and successful the new government, which the Prime Minister has put in place, really demonstrates that the country is prepared to move forward with certain reforms and certain fiscal spending. I think that's really what's going to be key for the eyes of many foreign investors and multinationals.
And how do they do that?
Well, they just had the cabinet reshuffle just earlier this week. So we're now, I think, very eagerly anticipating what some of those new members of the economic team, once they get in place, what types of initiatives are they going to really put forward that really will generate a positive response both from business, but also perhaps even try to generate a little bit more of a domestic consumer confidence bump as well.
And what can the Bank of Thailand do to stimulate the economy? Do you foresee more interest rate cuts, weakening the baht? What should be their policy now?
Yeah, I think given as all the emerging markets are kind of struggling with the devaluation of the RMB, I think sort of devaluating the baht would probably not be the optimal solution. One might consider maybe some additional reduction in interest rates to try to attract or try to drive additional capital spending could be one approach. But I think if the Thai fundamentals are what they are, those investors who've been in the country for a long time will continue to see opportunity.
But what are those fundamentals?
Well, I think the fundamentals in Thailand are still, again, it still is the second largest economy in a region of Asia, which is still, even with the current headwinds, is still predicted to grow between 3% and 4% this year. So relatively speaking, given what's going on in other markets, this still has a really positive story, I think, to tell.
Another positive is that Thailand is a net importer of oil. So it's been benefiting from the big decline in oil prices. What are some of the other things that Thailand has on the upside?
Well, I think they're in the industrial space. I mean, Thailand is a major player in the electronic space, which is long, even during downturns, we are still buying iPhones and Samsung Galaxy phones, those kinds of products. They are a major player in the auto space. And again, depending upon what part of the world, there are some positive outlooks, although I think there is a little bit of a concern long term about maybe what the auto sector is in trouble with. So I think for Thailand overall, though, there are still some good signs.
How significantly will Thailand be impacted by the growth, slowing down that we're seeing in China?
They will. Like all the economies that we're seeing increased trade with China over the last few years, as China's economy does slow down a bit, so that trade growth or that export market may weaken or soften a little bit. I think for Thailand, though, they've still got, again, some very good, fast-growing markets in their own ASEAN region, and I think that's where they'll probably have to turn to.
As you know, October is peak travel season for Thailand. Do you think that confidence in the tourism sector will return in time for that?
I think it's possible. I think it really is, as indicated before, how the government, with some of the new cabinet officials that have been put in place, how they demonstrate leadership, how they show that the government is really on top of things will go a long way in trying to, again, maintain that degree of confidence. And that'll be important for the country and for the region.